Good afternoon and welcome to this conversation with our special guest today, who I'm going to introduce in a minute. But first, by way of introductions, I'm Jamie. I'm the Executive Chairman of Digital Transformation Specialist C-Learning. And I have the luxury in my job of getting to meet some absolutely brilliant people who are doing important work that matters, especially around innovation. And today that relates to innovation in education with a chap who's from my home of Staffordshire, I'm very proud to say, and we're going to be digging into some of the brilliant work that he's doing in a moment. But by way of introducing my co-host today, Chris, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, good to be back. I missed the last one, but
You did.
I'm back in for this one.
You were nearly replaced, Chris.
Very nearly, yeah. Can't believe I've still got the job. Yeah, I'm the product solutions manager for C-Learning. So finding out what technologies can help to make the journey for teachers and educators and students as well, of course, as easy as possible. So I'm really keen to join the call today. I'm looking forward to it.
Wonderful. Thanks, Chris. And to introduce my special guest today and our special guest today, I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce James Earp, who is the Director of IT for the Potteries Education Trust, which is a fantastic education trust in the West Midlands, where I live. I met James in person a short while ago, actually, when I was visiting the Stoke-on-Trent Sixth Form College, which is part of the Potteries Education Trust. And I was blown away by some of the work that was going on and some of the innovation and some of the really impactful stuff that I saw everywhere. I think when you've been in and around education for decades like I have, you can feel when you walk into an organization quite quickly what kind of an organization you're in. And the moment that you walk in to any of the organizations that are part of the Potteries Education Trust, you can feel that it's well managed, well run, and very commercially well run as well. And James is definitely not what I would call a typical IT director in education. I think the trust is very lucky to have you, James, and welcome to the conversation today. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to it.
Privilege. Right, I'm going to kick off with a bit of an open discussion topic, and then I'll hand over to Chris to sort of dig into a few other topics as well. What I want to start with is a really sort of open-ended question about financial value and budgets and affordability, which is never far from most people's minds in education these days. I mean, I'm a director of an education trust, as you probably know, James, and with that hat on, we have constant conversations about budgets and things. And when we were last chatting, I know that one of the innovative things you've done lots of innovative things in the trust, and we'll dig into that during this conversation. But one of the things I was going to start with was about Chrome and Chrome Flex, which is a Google technology for those people who might not know it. And in particular, Chrome Flex is a way of repurposing aging devices and turning them into a newer, more fast kind of operating system that delivers a really fabulous sort of end user experience. You happen to mention you'd done some of this in your trust, which didn't surprise me when you said it, because I thought, yes, this is an innovative place I'm in here. There's some great work going on. But do you want to share a little bit about how that's sort of supported your approach to value and making your budgets have the biggest impact you can and going as far as you can? So what's your thinking behind that, and how has things like Chrome and other technologies helped you with that?
Yeah, so it's always been on our kind of roadmap and strategy in terms of we need to achieve ultimately equitable learning experiences across the trust. So a little bit about my trust, just if I may, Jamie, is that we are, as you say, based in Stoke-on-Trent, Potteries Educational Trust. We have 4 academies. So on paper, we sound like quite a small trust, but our student footprint is significantly larger than it appears. We have over 4,000 learners, 450 members of staff across 3 educational settings. That makes us quite special in our own way. So that includes your primary, your high schools, and the FE environments as well. Multiple age educational settings means more IT challenges, more complex, safeguarding, just to name a few things for us to consider. But as you say, the tin on the ground in every establishment has to be well supported, has to meet our cyber regulations. Obviously, the recent end of life of Windows 10 has obviously made it a little bit more kind of forced into that a little bit. This example you mentioned about the Chrome Flex at one of our high schools was they've got a magnitude of IT suites, so multiple across the site, maybe up to 8 or 9 rooms of IT suites. So a very heavy IT user However, to maintain, refresh that, you have to have a really good strategic replacement program. And what we kind of found as we brought that academy onto the network was this hasn't got the longevity anymore. That Windows device in 4, maybe 5 rooms we looked at, we need an alternative measure here. Do they need it for the curriculum? What's the curriculum need? Is it equitable for the learners in that room? Can they do what they need to do on that? Once they've got to that point where it's no longer sustainable, no longer viable from a cybersecurity perspective, we then look at what else could we do. And as you say, Google Chrome Flex was an option. It was, again, like many projects we do, you have to bring the people on the journey with us. And it was certainly budget friendly, as you say, rather than sorry, someone just came in the room.
No, it's okay. It's education.
Yeah. So in terms of what we were looking to achieve on a budget friendly perspective, replacing 4 or 5 labs wasn't doable at that time. And still isn't really doable now. Educational budgets are very much as tight as can be. And we've implemented that Google Chrome Flex into those assets, those labs, and haven't really turned back, to be fair. Hand on heart, haven't seen many help desk support tickets as well from that perspective. So that's always a positive from my line of work.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention that, actually, because a few years back when I was last an IT director in education, that was one of the things that I used to have a real bottleneck and problem with, because I'd had a downsized team in my IT support. And of course, we've all got our own versions of, support ticketing systems of people who need help and processes for that. And we were really struggling with that. And when we deployed Google, I mean, we got lots of different technologies, but we quite majored on Google in that particular organization. But that made everything more manageable, because the good thing I like about Google technology is it tends to just work. And funnily enough, the amount of times I've said to the team in my company just this week, and when we've been talking to clients, and we've basically been saying, isn't what we really want from technology that it just works? Like, I'm not sure that any of us care too much about what the technology sometimes is, as long as it just works and does what we want it to do. You should see me when technology doesn't do that. I'm like Basil Fawlty. So I think that's one of the benefits, I think, from technologies like Chrome Flex, and a range of other things that just do what they're supposed to do. So it's really interesting to hear you say that, James. I'm going to ask Chris to chip in now with a little bit about more on the sustainability side, because you just touched upon it a little bit then when you were answering that question. Chris, over to you.
Yeah, happy to jump in there. Yeah, you've mentioned about the budget and affordability there of Flex, which obviously is great to get more of those one-to-one devices out to your trust. From a sustainability perspective as well, the trust's objectives, I'm just wondering how bringing Flex in to give a new lease of life to those Windows 10 devices, slightly older Windows machines that maybe aren't powerful enough for Windows but are for Chrome, just how that's benefited the trust and the overall sort of impact that's had for you as well, James. If you could elaborate on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a trust, we have a strategic objectives, and we have a strategic plan on a page which we adhere to, and almost helps our accountability really on that perspective. So the one that we kind of look at is from an IT view is educational provider of choice, and within that we've got things like the mastery of learning, teaching and learning in a sense on that one, and digital learners. So that digital learning piece is key for us. We want to make sure that those learners in our establishments fully equipped to progress through those age settings up and towards university, apprenticeships, employment afterwards. And that's our drive. We want to make sure that we are giving those learners the opportunity to succeed with the right technology. From a sustainable perspective, for us to have looked at that in their curriculum area of this particular high school, it was either Chrome Flex or remove. In essence, for us, that there was no middle ground. They might have been able to replace 1 out of 4, but then who gets that priority? What curriculum is benefiting when the others don't? in terms of being able to maintain that number of devices, this Chrome Flex operating system has allowed us to look past that minimum requirement perspective. So that's allowed us to then say, okay, Department A, you can continue to have this lab. It will support your curriculum needs. It's got everything you need to do on there. We've bound our Google Workspace into our Microsoft 365 tenancy, so it allows that synchronicity with the users. It's a single logon perspective, whether they're using the Microsoft Windows devices or a Google Chrome Flex. It just has a different wrapper.
Superb.
Yeah.
Superb.
So for us, it's still a continuation of what we've got, apart from it looks a little bit different on the logon screen. For our users, the initial kind of process on that allowed them to get over that first hurdle, and now it's embedded. It does what it says on the tin, as you say, and from an eco-friendly sustainability approach, that we haven't put those old machines that are no longer fit for purpose in a cage or a recycling company or a landfill. That we've maintained those assets to give us longevity, a second life, so to speak, really on those. So we're chuffed with the outcome of it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? I mean, just thinking of the bigger picture there, because I get involved with a lot of sustainability initiatives, especially as it relates to tech. And you may be aware, but there's about, depending on which analysis you look at, but the most robust data suggests there's about 244 million computers just thrown into landfill every year. And I think that's crazy, especially when you consider there's about between 10 and 15 million people who haven't got a device in terms of digital poverty and things. And the figures are really high and very stark for under 18-year-olds, actually. It's far worse than maybe I think a lot of people realize. So devices like Chrome Flex, to me, are like, they're not a magic bullet solution, but they're a part of a solution, of mix of tools and that we have at our disposal to help tackle some of these issues. And a lot of your problems go away as well when you deploy technology that just works. And I think that's one thing that's great about Chrome and Chrome Flex.
Yeah, I think just adding to that as well. We always sort of do the summary of 10 Chrome Flex devices, managing those with 10 Chrome Education upgrade licenses, maybe around 260, 300 pounds, something like that. You're not going to get a lot out of a Windows laptop for 300 pounds. You might get one, you might get two, but you certainly can't deploy 10 of those into the hands of students that desperately need them to to maintain their learning.
I think this stuff's important on the sustainability side as well, because as James and colleagues will be aware, like, educators have now got to have a climate action lead, as I think it's called, and a climate action plan. And the DFE, the Department for Education, is increasingly looking at your credentials and what you're doing in regards to sustainability. I mean, years ago, it was just about estates, so your physical buildings and all of that, but it's gone far beyond that now. And I think that's obviously a direction of travel, which I think will just get more and more that way, because the climate crisis hasn't gone away. It might not be in the news every day, but it's going to be there. And I think tools like this, I think it's just about us thinking smarter, isn't it? About what's the best tool for the job and what is the most efficient from an energy point of view, etc. I mean, one of the things that has always impressed me about Google, actually, is that to give them a bit of credit here, they've been carbon neutral since 2007. They were one of the first big tech companies to really pioneer that stuff. I know that they're all doing great stuff now, because our friends at Microsoft and at Amazon are doing some great work as well to try and be at the forefront of this stuff. But Google have had incredible sort of work that they've got going on there. And if you look at their sustainability page, actually, there's a dedicated section of Google just to sustainability. It's well worth looking at some of the research reports on there as well. Actually, some really interesting stuff. I want to move us on a little bit now to another slightly different topic, which is security. Now, I personally have gone on a bit of a journey with this, with Google in particular, actually, years ago, because I actually found my way to Google when I was helping to run a college where we'd had a cybersecurity incident. And as a result of that, there was a lot of lessons learned, as is often said in the public sector. And part of that was what I could do to reduce the likelihood of it happening ever again. And that's how I found my way, actually, to Chromebooks back in the day. That was back in 2012, I think it was. And I just wonder how that fits in with your strategy around security at all, James, and whether you see that as helping your security credentials, because as you're probably aware, there's no cases of ransomware anywhere in the world on Chrome. That's not to say it's impossible. In fact, Google offer a prize, I think, for anybody who can put a virus on their Chrome environment. But so far, no one's done it, despite it being like billions of users globally. But how does Chrome and Chrome Flex sort of fit into your security thinking, James? In terms of, I presume it's a helpful thing for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, when we're looking at things like disaster recovery planning, we're very much governed under the basis of meeting certain standards, frameworks, and the like. So just to name a couple on there, you got the DFE standards. They've got a big push on the cybersecurity front on there. Obviously, they've just introduced it as of the latest Academy Handbook, 6 standards we have to meet mandatory by 2030. A lot of talk in the IT forums and IT networking space where I'm a part of on that. This, as you say, that lack of threat from ransomware from Google Chrome devices is phenomenal, isn't it? It's something that we need to consider, that from our Windows network, Microsoft network, we are always going to be at risk from some form of infiltration, some form of lateral movement attack. We obviously take cyber security very seriously. We're following the right accreditations, the right frameworks. We're doing penetration tests. And this Google piece just is on the side of it as well, so that if we had an issue with the Windows side of the network, how can we transition quickly over onto another network? And we've got some form of Google infrastructure a little bit in every academy. So I've not yet mentioned our primary school, but they are a heavy Chromebook user environment. They've pretty much got a 1-to-2 ratio based on Chromebooks to students. They're bringing that in on I think as early as year 1 for them to having to use a device now. My daughter is of a similar age. She says she's using the same technology. And just bringing that in, obviously you're looking at digital skills as well. I know we've not yet really spoke about the digital poverty side of stuff, but we're obviously bringing those skills in. If we can bring them in from an earlier age, that's a life skill they're going to have as they continue to go up through the age settings, up to universities and further on in progression.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's key for us. So as again, just to allude back to the security side of things, absolutely no concerns of the ones that we've used. We do a multi-layering system on our networking, multiple networks, VLANs, as you may call them, so that even if there was an issue on the core network, let's call it, the network we have for the Chrome devices could continue to work. There is that option of a business continuity, disaster recovery, maintenance plan that we've got on that side there, that actually, we've lost this, but we haven't lost this. And therefore we can go back in, and we've taken a cloud first approach from the DFE on many things like your MIS, your safeguarding, cloud filtering. I've not yet spoke about that from a implementation perspective. These Chrome devices, these Chrome Flex devices, are all following the KIXI updates, active monitoring, cloud filtering, and then that reporting mechanism on the side as well. So, not to coin the term again, but stuff that just works. It is a dream, isn't it? I suppose.
Well, it is, especially for people in complex, demanding roles like yours, because having done a role that is the same as yours in the past, I don't think, unless you've done the role, people who haven't done the role can fully appreciate the scale of kind of problems that land on your shoulders. It is so complex, broad and diverse, and getting more complex because thanks to things like AI, which we won't dig into in big detail today, but when we look at AI tools that are out there in the wild now, and there's new risks and threat vectors that come with that potentially as well, depending on how it's deployed and things. And so it's an always rapidly changing area, isn't it? That's incredibly complicated, which again is why I think the trust that you're in is lucky to have you, James, because not just from this conversation, but from our previous conversations, you have quite an advanced and progressive approach to the technology infrastructure that you have and how you stitch it together and manage it in the way that you do. Anybody who visits your place would be able to see that straight away, that it's really commercially managed and really, really benefits your learners and your community. Because I walked into your place, a short while ago and thought, wow, if your kids were going there, you'd be pretty proud of that, because everything, all the buildings look brand new. Even, I mean, I know they are relatively new buildings, but they've been open a while now, and yet you still managed to keep everything looking brilliant. And I sense that the students took a real pride in it as well. In your
100%.
Yeah.
100%. What makes it different about the sixth form college compared to the high school is that the students have to want to come to the college. So the site you came to visit, Jamie, was that the students are in the building because they want to come here, and it's their choice. And we pride ourselves very much on the fact that we have to be forward thinking, not only as a trust, as individual academies as well. We all have that kind of mantra to put forward, that we are wanting to be the educational partner of choice in the region. That's our strategic aim, it's our strategic objective, and that's where we strive and want to be.
And you can feel it when you walk in, and I think you can feel it in the staff and your colleagues as well, because you've got some amazing colleagues as well that I met, and you seem like a really high performance team that is bringing a huge amount of value to what you're doing. You sense people personally care as well, which I think is wonderful. That's another topic I could dig into a whole other time, about the culture of your organization, because I thought that was wonderful. But Chris, I'll hand back to you for the next discussion topic.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. James, I think you mentioned 4 academies at the start within the Potteries Education Trust. So I'm just keen to understand, with Google's cloud-based solution, how you found that, pluses or minuses, just in deployment, maintenance, the overall fleet management from an IT perspective. Obviously, you've got the Google Admin Console that you can manage everything from one login, one device. How's that made a difference to you and your team in terms of, efficiencies and time saving? And have you come across any snags at all?
Not snags as such, but I can give you a bit of a rundown of our implementation of how it went. Obviously, the summer in terms which we rolled this out, which was probably the best part of 15-16 months ago now. So not this summer, just gone, the one previous. We are very fortunate in the trust that the college have a T-level provision. So I can sing the praises of my team all day long, but it's our wider team as well. So the T-level placements within the college supporting trust academies, IT projects has been nothing short of phenomenal as well. So being able to teach and learn and develop those younger minds that actually help implement Chrome Flex to us was a game changer as well. So these students are 16, 17 years old, rolling out the Chrome Flex to laptops, PCs, and the like, all in ones. It was phenomenal. From rolling out those devices, all the networking stuff. Obviously, the technical leads might have taken that approach on my team, but from that end user perspective and that rollout, I can't speak fondly enough of what they've been able to achieve for us. Managing those devices, again, cascading the roll down and giving it to my mid-management IT leads, absolutely no concerns whatsoever. They've gone in, they've adjusted the device settings, the enrollment details, using the user-based enrollment to the OU. That's been superb from us, making sure they go into the right classrooms, applying the different software packages, the application IDs, the extensions, making sure it's all compliant from a KITSI perspective. Obviously, with quality assure all the work that goes on when we have additional workforce. But yeah, absolutely no qualms or concerns really about how we've gone about that. If we have to run an update on these devices, they're pretty much self-managing. So it's completely different compared to a Windows device where you're looking at active patch Tuesdays, and just to say a few there. So it's one of the workhorses that you know are there. They just tick along, and you just don't have to get involved with it, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Obviously, you might want to check that your filtering policies are working, but that's part of your day-to-day job as a techie, I suppose, in our establishments.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't fault it.
Yeah, no, I agree. That was my experience as well, and has been my experience ever since with Chrome and Chrome Flex. And I'm going to flip now to a little bit more on. We've talked a lot about tech and security. I just want to think about teachers for a bit and the education experience side of it. I know if I just talk from my own personal experience for a moment again, and I'd be interested to hear your experience, James. But when I first deployed Chromebooks in a college I was working in at the time, nobody in that college had ever even heard of a Chromebook at that point. They didn't know what it was because it was all quite new back then. And it was like, what's a Chromebook? And I remember I was onto a winner when I was walking down the corridors of the college one day, and some of the learning support assistants had just had a meeting, and they were all leaving the meeting and walking out of the room, and they were holding their Chromebooks to their chest like this as they were walking down the corridor. And I looked at them and I said, "Hey, how's it going? And how are you finding the Chromebooks? Because I noticed you appear to be hugging them." and this lady said to me, she said, "Oh, it's a game changer." And I said, "Why? Tell me about it." And what we'd done is we configured the Chromebook so that when you open the lid, it went straight to their screen that they needed to record an intervention on if they had made an intervention with a particular student to do with their roles as learning support assistants. And previously, they were having to find a traditional desktop somewhere in the college and then record it, which would usually be at 5 o'clock at night, because that would be the first time that they'd get a chance to actually do it. But by having Chrome and Chromebooks in their hands, literally, they could record it live there and then. But the bit that I've never forgotten was the fact that the way that they were holding the devices, they walked down the corridor. Because if you see people doing that you're onto a winner, because they kind of love the technology. But it wasn't because of the technology. They loved it because it had made their lives better. I mean, for example, the lady I'm referring to told me that she got her Thursday evenings and her weekends back, she said. And of course, when you deploy technology that makes people's lives better, you don't have to convince anybody, because they just engage because they love it. You know what I mean? So thinking of that kind of thing in your trust, James, have you had any feedback or comments from the teaching staff about Chrome or Chrome Flex that you could share, or have you got any thoughts about how it's making a difference from an education point of view?
Yeah, I think we alluded to it earlier about the operating system itself. Chrome Flex it doesn't have all that bloatware with it, does it? That performance element, you turn it on, the login screen is just there. You're not having to go through all these cycles of updates and policy reviews and stuff that come through on the screen. So yeah, from a performance perspective, a quicker load time. The first thing is the teacher, when they go in, they know that the machine's ready to teach on.
Yeah.
Obviously you have to have an internet connection, but that's part and parcel of today, isn't it? Every computer lab or Wi-Fi enabled device, that's the first thing. Once it's connected, it's straight in and straight out to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you say, we've got teaching assistants that use it now over in the high school, and again, looking on that replacement strategy and affordability, every member of staff has a device in our trust. That's one of our key selling points.
Yeah.
And that could be Windows, it could be Chrome Flex. We have that ability to offer both. In terms of obviously that Google technology and that Google online elements, we're using Google Classroom across the primary school. Obviously, we turn off some of the features such as the chat, because obviously we want to make sure we're compliant from a work-life balance perspective. Obviously, safeguarding, we want to make sure that there is less means of students being nuisance. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so if we can keep them on track the best we can with restricting down the devices and the settings, we're all game for that. But yeah, we previously were a Google house in the college, and it was purely all Google. I think an executive decision in a past life, we did look at the Microsoft tenancy, but we still what people don't realize is we still have our Google tenancy as our failover domain. So we live
in a hybrid world, though, don't we? Like James, we're talking about that earlier. I think we're thankfully probably. I don't hear these days anybody sort of being too strong on we're just this or we're just that. I think we've sort of moved to a point in the world now where everyone recognizes we're in a hybrid world of different technologies. And as I said earlier, one of the things I think you've done particularly well, as you've been describing in this conversation, is you've stitched together the right technologies for you to have the right impact in a way that works for you, whether that's Chrome Flex in some parts of the organization, or whether that's Windows machines in another part, and you've probably got some Macs somewhere in the machine in the estate as well. Yeah. I've never met a design in every college I go into, the design department's always got Macs somewhere, and the music department usually as well.
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't escape that. I always used to wince when I used to get the bills for Apple Macs. Like, I'd look at it, and bear in mind, in my estate, probably the same as yours, I've got Chromebooks, I've got some Windows machines, and I've got Apple Macs. And you've got like the super cost-effective like Chrome Flex at one extreme, and at the other extreme, I've got a solid-state drive MacBook, whatever, and it was costing like an absolute fortune. Yeah, I used to constantly meet with those departments, going, "Convince me this is really needed."
Well, this is it, and I suppose if you look at the trust again from a holistic view of the 3-year-olds up until 19 plus, for us, the different curriculum areas have different needs, different qualifications, and as you say, for the particular purpose that we've looked at, the college do have extra needs in terms of specialist equipment. Obviously, they qualify for certain project grants and funds, but that could range from immersive suites that we have through to games design labs, computer science, cyber labs, general computing, exam laptops, Chrome Flex devices, all the way through to the high school settings where it's a little bit more, I hate the term vanilla, but you could probably use the same thing everywhere in the high school setting. Again, down to the primary age settings where they're basically learning to ride a bike with it, aren't they? Effectively, they're learning their first key skills of what's these letters mean on a keyboard.
Yeah,
and it's all part of their growth strategy, isn't it? In terms of how they're learning, how they're developing. And from a usability perspective, I think that Chrome Flex, once they're in, you have to click on this icon here. It's very, very visibly appealing. You don't get bombarded too much with what you can do on a Microsoft device. It's been phenomenal, and obviously we have different needs and wants, and I suppose you had that, Jamie, when you were an IT director previously. And
absolutely. You've got many different audiences, and you've got to try and stitch together the right technologies to do what's required, often in severe budget constrained situations as well. And that's one of the things, again, I've said it before and I'll say it again, for anybody listening to this later or reading about it later in an article, if ever you get the chance to sort of experience James's organisation, or you happen to be in the Staffordshire area, or people who are, I'd recommend dropping in and having a look around and seeing what's going on, because the children and the young people in your organisation, I think, are very lucky to be there, because you've obviously done a hugely effective job of managing the same budget constraints everybody else has got, but you've done it particularly well, in my opinion, through the kind of topics we're talking about now, because it's obviously enabled you to have greater impact for every pound that you're spending in terms of what you're doing. Because when you walk around your the various organizations in your trust, you can see the learning going on, you can see the fabulous facilities, and yet you've got the same constraints as everybody else, but you've managed to do a lot more with it, I think, through some of the things that you've been sharing in this conversation so far, James. And I think that's a real credit to you and the team in the Potteries Education Trust, because I'm really keen to share what you're doing with a wider audience, so we can all learn from each other and share. And then if we help lift a few other people higher with enabling their budget to go a bit further, then in education, that's got to be worth doing, I think. So, thanks for sharing your insights on that. And I'll hand back to Chris for the next discussion point, if that's okay, Chris.
Yeah, I'm just thinking go for it, James.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add into there as well, Jamie, in terms of obviously the perspective, and it's setting that expectation as well. And I think that's something that you can't overlook as well. So what someone wants and what someone needs is also quite clear to define. So if someone wants something, what's the impact? I think that's key. So our leadership structure across the academies, across the ELT executive leader team, there has to be due diligence done on why we're doing certain things, and what is the longevity, what's the replacement strategy, how do you know that you are going to be benefiting that learner from that? And that goes back to that strategic piece about mastery of learning. Whatever we do in our organization, again, shared views across like many IT peers and networks that I'm part of, is that if you're not having an impact to teaching and learning, why we're doing it in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that again is a credit to there's something interesting about your culture, in my opinion, in your organization, James, which I think is quite different, because where a lot of organizations go wrong, for want of a better way of putting it, in my experience, is that someone in your role might say to people, what is it you want for the job, kind of thing. And what you'll always get as an answer if you ask that question is a newer version of what I've got now. And of course, that isn't necessarily the answer. The real question is what you were just alluding to, which is what is actually needed for teaching and learning for the job. Because that might be something completely different. It might be something new that we haven't got now. And I can imagine that's very much how you guys work, because having seen and experienced your organization, you're bringing in new things, you're innovating, you've got Chrome and Chrome Flex and other things across the organization as well. And I think that's a very smart culture. Obviously you've got some quite really interesting things going on with your culture there about how you question things and bring in new stuff. So I think that's absolutely great. But Chris, I think it's your turn for the next question.
Absolutely. I was going to just mention we were talking about Macs. There are other devices that you can flex, but maybe you don't want to do that on a MacBook Pro when you've just bought it. Although, just imagine how quickly that would run with the Google operating system. That'd go like a train, wouldn't it? Just thinking about the sort of the Google ecosystem here, you know, the Chrome browser, education, you know, Workspace for education, Chrome devices, Chrome Flex devices, everything aimed around cloud first, really. That's pretty much Google's mantra. I'm just wondering how that helps you, you know, from a cohesive and collaborative digital strategy, you know, across all of your schools in the trust, how that helps you keep everything together and in line.
Yeah, in terms of obviously that wider piece, like we do deploy the Chrome browser across all our Windows devices as well, so we've got that cohesion on that. Obviously we do push the Microsoft Edge as well for the single sign-on stuff as well, but from a unified perspective, really, we are very much key to make sure that if people are logging onto devices, they are only using that same credential once. So if they're logged in with an account, that one account then needs to talk to these other systems. I was just going to have a quick look, and obviously this is probably for another time. We have an IT implementation plan that we are accountable for as a trust IT service. Obviously we're not yet a fully centralized service and shared service. We are still decentralized as it stands right now. Obviously the journey is to become everyone under one roof sort of thing from that service. But from that digital classroom piece, I think that's key for us. That's one of our pillars basically within our implementation plan. That's something that I'll be accountable for, how we bring in that learner piece across and making sure that those classrooms are digitized. That includes the use of PCs, laptops, iMacs in certain cases, Chrome devices. But yeah, in terms of that cloud first approach, again, we want and need to make sure that our learners have access to the right resources, the correct resources, make sure they're safeguarded from some of the nasty things that you can find on the internet, I suppose, as well. But yeah, we have to also be agile in that aspect. Again, I mentioned earlier about being challenge those that are wanting to replace A with A or A with B. Is see a better fit. It could be, in our case, it has been. We always kind of use an analogy of like looking at jigsaw pieces, puzzle pieces, and making sure they fit. And sometimes it is like for like, but then again, maybe you have to look at it from a different angle and actually rotate it more times to try and make something else fit, because it would be better longer term.
Yeah, makes total sense. Well, look, you've been incredibly generous with your time, James. So we're going to ask 2 more questions, and then we're going to let you get into your weekend when it arrives. And penultimate question is from me, and it relates really to kind of the cultural piece we were just talking about. And I'm just curious as to anything you would share with any leaders in roles similar to yours across the education sector who might be thinking, Well, I wonder how James overcame the inevitable objections to change or any new technology, whatever it might be, whether it's Chrome or something else, doesn't have to be Chrome specific. But when you've been innovating in your leadership role and bringing in some of the innovation, have you got any lessons or insights that you would share? And I'll share a little anecdote from my personal journey first before I let you respond. When I introduced, for example, Chromebooks in one organization, and they were completely new to that organization again, I sent a message out to all the staff and said, you've said you want new technology. We've got some new technology, but you also know we've got real tight budget constraints. So maybe not everybody is going to get one. But if you fill in this form, I'll do my very best, but it'll be a first come, first served basis. Well, there's nothing to inspire motivation that seems to work quite as well as fear of missing out. Now, you could say I was being a manipulative individual there, but it worked very well. And I'm not advocating that approach. I'm just saying that's what I did once. And it worked very, very well and created a huge demand. And it definitely overcame a lot of resistance. Whereas I think if I'd said, here's a bunch of devices you'd never heard of before, I'd have had quite a few people going, what's this? This isn't what I asked for. I just wondered if you got any sort of anecdotes or insights from your experience with any particular technology in your trust about how you overcame resistance to it. Because in every single large organization like yours, there's always some people who maybe are harder to get on board, if I can put it that way, than others. And have you got any just sort of quick insights you'd share with other leaders in a role like yours?
Yeah. So in terms of, I've been in education for over 15 years, or it's coming very close to 15 years now. So I've gone through different educational settings, different mats, different clusters, and you kind of take things as you move and progress. And I think one of the things was a previous management has explained to me how if everyone's on the boat, we all have to use the oars in the right direction to make sure we're traveling at the same direction, same speed, and those that are not pulling are going to be the people that drag and slow down the process. So if you're that person having to give that instruction or that information, how do you make that as clear and concise as it needs to be? I do like to waffle on. I'm probably waffling on now. But in terms of giving that instruction, we've done that. We've implemented really big digital transformation projects. We've taken non-digitized classrooms with the long throw projection and a pull down screen into the 21st century with a digital screen, bringing some casting technologies into there. And just for that example, you have to bring the teaching colleague with you on that journey and show how you're supporting them, not just giving them the technology in the room and right here, it's yours. They need that hand-holding initial to get over the first hurdle. You also need that third-party engagement, people like yourself, Jamie, or other vendors. Create those partnerships is key for me. Use those networking opportunities, use those partnerships to then go and have that additional support that you need. We run CPD days. We've had third parties or vendors come on site to provide additional training. They want to be involved with us. We want to be involved with them. And from that digital transformation project, so the screens that I mentioned, their teachers all had a session, hour long plus whatever it was, of using that screen with just the basics. Here's how you turn on, here's how you connect, here's what you need to do with your presentation, PowerPoint, Word document, whatever they want to do, that inking technique. To the point where we're now assessing that to say, have we done enough? Do we want to do more? And I think given the offer of more, even if it's not having full uptake, but still takes, 30 to 50% uptake, you're building that network of teachers teaching teachers. Their peer networks grow. And we implemented something called a digital champion based remit on another academy that had the same project. And now that when people have issues, they know who to go to because they're deemed the experts in their profession, basically, in that aspect of how do I do this in the classroom and get engagement. They don't want to hear from me as a techie or any of my team as techies. Maybe it is a technical issue and they do need it fixing, but if they want to learn how to have a classroom take that engagement, that audience as such, involve and have involvement, they want to hear from the same person on their level in their job, and that's what I would say from that perspective. If you can find people on board, the digital learners, digital champions, encourage it, empower them, give them the ability to grow with it, and then they will do most of the technical first line bits, because how do I get this to happen with the students? They want to hear it from a teacher. I can't say how powerful that's been from us from that perspective. It's been game changing on that perspective. And again, for the Chrome Flex implementation of that, the IT teachers, they were the first one to tell us, oh, by the way, how do we print from this? And then you're thinking, oh, actually, that's not something we'll consider, because we've just been doing the lift and shift, the imaging. We put them in the classrooms ready for you, but you've told us what you need from that. And then that helps us develop that. Software requirements, again, they are the people that will come to us, and we've got a really good kind of working relationship with those colleagues. And it's not a blame culture. Oh, it's not that person again. We want to hear it. I think, and bringing that culture to the staff, allow them to have a voice. It allows us to, effectively become very, I don't know what the right word is, Jamie, if I'm honest, but
trusted, I would say. Yeah, because I think what you're describing there is a really open, transparent culture. And again, I mentioned culture quite a bit in this conversation, because I think that's something that comes through from your organization. Your culture is enabling this sort of impactful use of technology to happen across it, and that includes sharing what isn't working as much as what is working. And you, as you've just said, you embrace that and do stuff with it, which I think is inspirational. I think that's great stuff. And I think that's very healthy as well. And
we want IT to be an enabler in this, don't we? We don't want it to be hindering progression or affecting learners' experiences. It's got to be an enabler.
And you are a very trusted expert advisor and providing that guidance to colleagues who may not have your technical skills. So you can provide that excellent technical advice and guidance, whether it's security, whether it's even on sustainability, or how it might relate to other aspects of the operations of the trust. And that sort of trusted advisor role is something that I think comes across in this conversation, and is clearly worked in your trust. And it's been an absolutely a joy to listen to you sharing some of the insights today, James. I'm going to hand to Chris now to ask the final question of this conversation, which has flown by the way. I can't believe we're at the end of the conversation. It feels like we're just starting. I would like, there's so many more questions I would like to, another day, James, I'll come back to you with a lot more discussion topics. But for now, I'm very mindful of your time, which you've been very generous with to spare some time with us today. But Chris, I'm going to let you ask the penultimate question before I wrap up for the day, if that's okay.
Yeah, final question is one about the future. I always feel like I need mood lighting or something for this one. But just from a looking forward, vision into the future here, things like Chrome Flex and the wider sort of Chrome ecosystem, just keen to understand where you think your particular trust will be with that in maybe the next 3 or 5 years, how you think that's going to develop and how that's going to impact both IT and educators and students, of course, within your trust.
Yeah, and just to add to Chris's question there as well, I would just add, so there's a Chrome element to that, but I'd also just be interested in your experience, James, of more widely technology as well. So if you could answer it in 2 parts, firstly, how you see Chrome developing as part of that, but also just a final thought from you on what emerging technologies, or what do you think, as much as any of us can predict the future. And I tend to subscribe to that well-known investor quote, which is that these days, when it comes to predicting the future, I don't even buy green bananas. So I don't think any of us can really predict the future too much. But as much as, I mean, who saw ChatGPT coming? You know what I mean? A lot of people pretend they did, but that's another story. So what? Just your thoughts on future technologies? I'd be interested to start with Chrome, and then I'd just be interested in your thoughts more widely as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So Chrome Flex for us is here to stay. It will grow as part of our trust. That element of whether it's a business continuity element or whether we're bringing more into the curriculum areas, again, will dictate on potentially some of the software requirements that I need for certain courses, the availability of that against, if I just give an example for for IT at A level, they might need certain databases that might not be as applicable on the Chrome because they've not adapted into a cloud database on that curriculum. We're always going to be assessing where we're at with stuff. Obviously, the cheaper on the budgetary and the forecasting for us, we could make our money go a lot further, especially on that Chrome Flex stuff. So it's something that as we do our projects, we will always assess that. What is the need, what is the want, and how do we get there and make it an impactful, informed decision on it. So it's definitely here to stay. We are members as a trust, as the college, in particular, of members of the local Chamber of Commerce. We're looking at bringing in some of the conversations that have recently happened about supporting the wider community. Like again, I mentioned the T-level provision that we've got already. I can see ourselves being in the next 1 to 3 years potentially being a hub site to support the refurbishment of devices for those in the community that don't have any technology. I think it'd be really powerful for us as a trust to support them. I say them, the people less fortunate than us, and the circumstances that do surround them. If we could give a Chrome Flex device to a homeless association that can put it into an area that can be a multi-use tool and allows them to support their regeneration of what they want to achieve from there, looking for jobs, looking for other things. Again, I feel like that could be a really powerful piece for us. 3 to 5 years on the Chrome Flex, I'd imagine there'll be a lot more in each of the sites, as you say, to become that off-network device that just needs the internet. We are very cyber security focused at our trust. We are advocates and discuss this at many other forums and conferences. You do need to have a plan B, because cybersecurity and incidents related to that are a when, not an if. And if you've already had one, it's when you're having your next one. So that whole piece where they're not going to be affected by ransomware is a big selling point for us. Effectively, if we lost some of the network but still had internet, we could effectively still do our curriculum. We could still do our core purpose, which is deliver that teach and learn element in those areas. It's really powerful stuff. It's something that we've definitely considered. Like, could we take more on? But again, it's that culture and change, isn't it? Like, it's the devil that what you know, isn't it, on certain people, and maybe that might upset the apple cart too much going completely full Chrome. So this is why we have taken that hybrid approach. But yeah, I see it playing an integral part of the next number of years for us.
Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you so much, James. Yeah, go for it.
I was just going to follow up with the other side of the future for us in terms of a trust. As I said, I've alluded to already, we've got a magnitude of different emerging technologies that we have in place in the college and across the wider sites as well. So things like TV studios, recording, like live feedback stuff for like medical T levels, immersive suites, Apple suites, as you mentioned, the Apple iMacs. Who's to say that can't be something different in the future? But yeah, I think in terms of where we're going and our priorities is that the emerging AI stuff is obviously something really big to consider. Cybersecurity, again, very much a big thing. Looking at standards and compliance. I know people in my situation and related jobs are looking at things like being compliant from RPA perspective, DFE standards. There's going to be a significant upheaval of old equipment that aren't end user devices. It's going to be the core underlying infrastructure that's going to change. The DFE are pushing that cloud first approach. Again, you still need some things on the ground to help a network run. Core switching, Wi-Fi points, just to name a couple of things on there. And there are certain things that have been highlighted on these standards to make sure they're of the right standard, they're centrally managed. How are we considering getting compliance for that, but also knowledge sharing with others to say this is what we've done, or this is our approach, actually helps them provide something back to us again on a two-way partnership to say that actually we didn't consider that. That's a really good idea, because every IT person will have a different mentality and thought-provoking way to look at things, aren't they?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah. Great insights there, James. And I think you do a brilliant job. And I suppose I've got a little bit of a bias in this because I was in your role previously in another organization, and I've faced those challenges myself, in particular things like you mentioned, like, the real infrastructure there, like core switches and things. And I remember having an issue with the core switches in one organization, and I had to sort of try and persuade a board of very non-technical people why it was critical that we needed to replace core switches at great cost. And that's quite a difficult job, isn't it? Because it doesn't sound as exciting and as attractive as all these whizzy innovative projects when you start talking about core switches, but nothing's going to work unless you've got things on the ground working. So and when it's big budgets involved with things like core switches, because they're not cheap, are they?
absolutely.
And that, it's like backup power supplies and things like that. No board tends to get too excited about these, but like I know, you've kind of got to have a power supply backup system in case everything goes down, and there's all that sort of resiliency stuff, which no one finds necessarily as exciting as the AI stuff that you were just talking about, but that you're also responsible for and is vitally important. So I've got a massive respect for anyone who does a job like yours, James, and I think you're doing an outstanding job of it as well, as I've said. So it just leaves me to say that on behalf of our friends at Google, who we've mentioned a bit today, and on behalf of all of our friends across the C Learning Company as well, a huge thanks to you, James, for giving up some of your precious time this afternoon to have a chat with us about the innovation taking place at the Potteries Education Trust. It's an absolutely brilliant institution. I recommend anybody who's listening to this later or is reading about it later takes a moment just to look them up and have a look at some of the work that James and the team are doing, because it really is an outstanding education institution in Staffordshire that's well worth having a look at. But from all of us, thank you, James, for your time today. It's really appreciated. And I'll stop the recording now.